What's up, my friends? My name is Lorenz. I am the co-founder of Sutra.co. Sutra is a social learning platform designed to help you create courses and communities that invite meaningful connection and conversation. In this video, I would like to talk about hiring. If you are a coach, consultant, creator, entrepreneur, or leader of any kind, it's highly likely that at some point you'll have to hire someone online. I like to think that I've learned a bit about this over the last 20 years. I started my first company shortly after college, raised $5 million, hired 15 people, and proceeded to make pretty much every single mistake in the book. It was totally dysfunctional and it was totally my responsibility. Since then, I've come a long way. Today we have a team all around the world, 100% remote, and I like to think that this is one of the biggest blessings of my life. There's a culture of care, mutual support, high performance. The team is awesome and it's my joy to work with them, but this didn't just happen. I learned a lot of things to do and not do along the way. So today I just want to share some basic pointers about how I approach hiring and how I approach company culture. Now, this isn't rocket science. It's actually totally intuitive and simple, but hopefully I'll offer you something that's of value. So first, where do I hire people? There's three main sites that I work with: Fiverr, Upwork, and LinkedIn. I find that Fiverr is excellent for short jobs. If I want to have a podcast transcribed or create some graphics or do some accounting related work, I've used Fiverr for all of those tasks. I've never had someone that I work with on Fiverr become a permanent member of my team, but it's great to find someone to do a quick job and to have a lot of selection. Now, I always do a Zoom interview with whoever I'm hiring. I just want to know the human behind the work. You can probably just hire people without doing that, but I find that somehow it creates a more relational connection, and it's important to me that the person I'm working with is someone that I want to be working with, that I just get a sense of who they are. Upwork is somewhere in between LinkedIn and Fiverr in that you can hire people for really short projects or somewhat longer form projects, and every once in a while the person is super amazing and actually becomes a full-time part of your team. I do find that the quality of selection on Upwork can be really good, and the response on posting a job post and getting applicants is also pretty fast. Again, I always do a Zoom interview before I hire anyone. Now, LinkedIn is really interesting because when you put out a job post on LinkedIn, you tend to get a ton of applications because LinkedIn makes it so easy to apply. You just hit a button and the application goes through. I find that most of those applications tend to be really low quality and not very interested. However, that being said, I've hired some of our best team members through LinkedIn. How does that work? Now, there is a specific tip or trick that I work with, which is that when I create the job post, I'll always put a line at the bottom that says something like, "To apply, please record a video of yourself talking about this and send it to this email address." Now, this is so key because the vast majority of people reading the job post will not notice that line and will not take that action. Which brings me to the single biggest things that I look for when I'm hiring someone, which are character and attention to detail. Anything else when it comes to skill and talent, of course, those are important, that the person can do the job that you want to do and that they're talented. However, those things can usually be learned on the job. Character and attention to detail cannot. And when I'm interviewing, this is the single biggest thing I'm looking for. And I try to vet that before I ever even meet the person. So this is one way to do that, is to put that at the bottom of your job post. What I will do is actually put another line, a hidden line, somewhere in the job requirements bullets or just somewhere random on the job post that says something along the lines of, this is a special line to test your attention to detail. Please talk about this in the application video. And it could be something random. Please talk about your favorite place to visit on Earth, or a time that you had a challenge that you overcame, or something that you learned over the last year. So I do like to make it a little more personal this way. Now, the video thing itself is really interesting in what it kind of qualifies for you. If you ask someone to record a video of themselves, upload it to YouTube unlisted, and then email that to you over email, that already is a certain indicator of technical proficiency. Now, maybe that kind of technical proficiency isn't important to you, but the reality is that the vast majority of online work does involve some level of technical aptitude. So it's helpful that the person can at least get by that. And also then you get to meet them before you meet them. You get a sense of who they are, how they come across it in video, how they present themselves. And I find that this can save a lot of time. So what happens is on LinkedIn that I'll get a ton of applications. A tiny fraction of those will actually complete the requirement of the application, and then I'll vet those and I'll meet those. The other thing that I do to really vet the applicants coming in is I'll look at every detail of the resume, not necessarily in terms of content, but in terms of presentation. If there are any punctuation errors, grammar mistakes, spelling mistakes, formatting issues, this is their resume. If it's not perfect in every way, what does that say about their attention to detail? So this is a big thing that I look at, is if there are any oversights in the detail, then usually that's a major red flag. And in the past, I've made exceptions to that. Inevitably, I've found that when there's an issue like that in the resume, it always shows up in the way that they do their work. There's always, if they don't have the attention to detail to make sure the resume is perfect, they're not going to have the attention to detail to make sure that whatever they're doing for you is perfect. So it's such a little thing, and this is the thing about the whole interview and hiring process. It is the little things that really show up as the big things when you hire them. So if you're interviewing a person and there's some little thing, I don't know, they show up late, they do some, they tend to like ramble, or they're not quite on something, you better believe that that is likely going to show up in their working relationship. So if you're okay with that, then that's great. But if there's some little part of you that goes, I'm not sure about this, then that's probably a good thing to listen to. And this is really what I pay attention to when I'm interviewing a person, is all those little things. I really tune into my body and just see if there's anything coming up. How does it feel to be in the presence of this person? What is this person's energy like? How do they carry themselves? How do they communicate themselves? All those little things are what I track to get a sense of, is this person going to be a good fit in our company culture? Because of course you can assess their talent, their skill, whether or not they have the experience. Those are in some way the easy thing. It's the character, the way that they show up, the way they're going to interact with your team, the way that they're going to make everyone else feel, the way that they will feel. Those are the subtle things that are much harder to gauge. And this is where I find taking on a really relational, attuned orientation to the person gives a lot of information. Just again, really just tuning into your own body. How does it feel to be around this person? Gives a lot of information about what it's going to be like to work with this person. Another thing that's a big indicator for me is, what kind of questions do they ask? Did they prepare? Did they research what our company does? What's their understanding of what our company does? Some people just want a job and they're just going through interviews. And then some people really want your job. They've done the research. They know what your company does. They have questions that are really, really relevant. And I find those are the best people. And so that's a really big indicator for me. If I do an interview with someone and they have no questions and they don't really understand what my company does, major red flag. So once I've past all that and I have a sense that, yeah, I want to see whether or not this person is a good fit, usually I'll try them out on some sort of trial project. Now this might be something really small, could be unpaid or could be paid, but just something that gives me an indicator of how they do their work. And even after that, what we'll usually do is we'll say, okay, we'll hire you for a trial period of 30 to 90 days where they basically become a full-time team member of our company. However, there's just an understanding that we're figuring out whether or not they're a good fit for us and whether or not we are a good fit for them. And I find that this is really, really crucial. In all of my conversation, I always make it clear that it's not just about what they can do for us, it's really about what we can also do for them, and how what we do is a fit in their life, their vision, their aspiration. And I really try to understand, what is their vision and aspiration? What are they working towards? What are their 3, 5, 10-year goals? So that I can better fit what we do in the context of what they want. Now moving on to what happens after you actually hire the person. How do you actually create the team environment? As I shared earlier, I really consider this to be one of the biggest blessings of my life, the team space that I get to participate in each day. One of the biggest contributing factors to that is the way that I approach whenever something comes up. Inevitably, as a person in a leadership position, you will have expectations, and every once in a while, those expectations may not be met. Now, sometimes those expectations are appropriate, sometimes they're not, but the key is, how do you handle that? I have found in the past that if a employee or a team member didn't meet an expectation, maybe we're working on a big project and something didn't get done in time or like I expected, I would more often than not skew towards being internally frustrated, but maybe not entirely expressing myself, or just being afraid of offending the person, or really not quite knowing how to handle that. Today, what I do is, as soon as something comes up, if I feel it lingering, sometimes something comes up and you just let it go, whatever. We're all human. But sometimes something stays with you and lingers. And this is the key. This is the key, is that it's really important to maintain an energetically complete space where you feel complete with every single person you're working with. If you don't feel complete, if there's something nagging you about how they show up or how they do their work, and you're not taking care of that, that's a problem, because that's in the space that's going to show up. That's one of those things that is communicated, that is unspoken but communicated anyway, right? Something that is unspoken but communicated anyway always influences the dynamics of the space, especially when you have people working with you. So the best thing you can do is find a way to identify that and then speak about it in a way where you take full responsibility for what is coming up for you. And this is so key. If something is coming up for me in relationship to how a person is performing their work, I'll approach them and say, hey, when we started working on this assignment, or when you completed this assignment, something came up for me and I just wanted to explore it with you. Not exactly sure how to talk about this, but would you be willing to explore this with me? Inevitably, of course, they'll say yes, and then I'll share whatever is there for me, and possibly share, yeah, I felt a sense of unease or frustration around that, and I just wanted to explore that with you because I don't want that to be in our space. And inevitably, what I have found is that people are extremely open to conversations like that and really appreciate being able to clear the space. What this does is it really allows people to relax, because there's a sense of safety. Now, how does that create safety if you're sharing something like that with a person? It creates safety because there's nothing that's hidden in the space. There's something that's mysterious. They know exactly where they stand and where you stand. Again, people are very sensitive. If you're holding on to something, more often than not, they can feel it. And this creates an opportunity for people to feel that they know exactly what is in the space. They know exactly how they stand with you. And this is can really transform the working environment, or the working experience of your team. It's just like any relationship. Stuff can pile up. If you don't take care of it, after a while it can get too much. So it's really important to keep that space clear. And I find that the best way to do so is to be uncomfortably honest and to take full responsibility for your experience and anything that is coming up for you. Finally, I think the most important thing is that people feel cared for, that there's a genuine sense of human relationship between you. Of course, this is a professional environment, but creating space for people to bring their humanity into the experience, creating an opportunity for you to regularly meet with people and just check in with how they're doing, what's going on in their life, what's their vision or aspiration, and just making sure that you create a space where people genuinely feel like the space is there to support them and their aspirations and what they're interested in, that it's not just about them doing work for you. The more you can create that space and invest the time and energy for people to feel that way, the more that space will take on a life of its own, and the team culture becomes a real joy to participate in. All right, I hope that has been helpful. These are a few of the things that have helped me create an awesome working environment. I would love to hear from you. What has worked for you? What hasn't worked for you? How do you approach hiring? Please share your comments below. Please hit subscribe. If you know anyone who is hiring or building a team and you think this would be of value to them, please share this video. Thank you so much for watching. Much love.